Asshole.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Three Idiots Talk Aquariums podcast. And I mean, we're already putting the idiot in the name, so that's good to hear. If you're listening, Ryan's holding his dog and talking smack about it to start us off, so that's good. What more could you want, basically? But yeah, thank you guys very much. If you haven't already, please make sure to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. But yeah. Otherwise, we'll just get straight into it. So, what have you guys had been happening in the fish rooms recently? Someone.
I have been through and sorted a lot of fish out, so that's been pretty cool. Like, just grading hundreds and hundreds of fish.
Have you graded them African Cichlid dumb, African Cichlid dumb, African Cichlid even more dumber? Is that how your grading system works?
No.
Comedy gold right there.
But I like that. That was actually moderately funny. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that got graded, not great, and that all went to new homes yesterday, so that's all good. Just random mails and stuff.
We had a comment on, might have been YouTube the other, or has to be YouTube. You can't comment on the audio version of it, about African Cichlids.
You actually can.
Oh, can they?
Yeah. If you can, there's like I think, because I can put whatever I want in the question, but there's like a box. Right. And normally it's like, what's your opinion of this episode or something?
Yeah, that's right.
But you can put whatever you want and I'll read it. I haven't worked out how to reply to them yet. I don't think I can, but I can read them.
Yeah. So anyway, on YouTube, someone made a main point that these other African cichlids that don't come from the Rift Lakes. Do you keep anything else that African cichlid wise aren't from the Rift Lakes, or you just race towards the Rift Lakes?
Well, we don't get an awful lot here that don't. I mean, I guess we get Caribbeans. We've got Jules. I've got a buffalo. I had a pair, but the female disappeared.
We've only got one or two species of Jules, eh? Don't get the cool Jules. Like those Turkanas and that.
We did get them recently, didn't we? They came in, but I don't know where they went.
Missed that one.
But yeah, again, I don't know. They've never really excited me, and I can't keep them with. Well, I can, but they're not really supposed to live with the Rift Lake cichlids, so I don't really keep them.
Yeah. So you're just on the Rift.
Yeah, just pretty racist African person.
And you love your bristle noses.
Yeah, I do love me a good bristle nose.
And you got your big boy featherfin still kicking around?
I had big boy featherfin. I can actually see him now that I cleaned that tank, so that's good.
Oh, nice. Who would have thunk it?
And even though I emptied that tank out, he's still there. I don't know. At some stage, I'll find him a home.
Keep him.
I might chuck him in Kim's class tank.
Yeah, kids will love that kind
I
of thing.
think the kids
it's a weird looking fish.
Love him. I just don't know whether he would, because there's a smaller tank and the fish in there are smaller, whether he would mess everything up.
Is that the mysterious one that Cam never sees?
Yeah.
I didn't see it for like 6 months, and I kind of just assumed someone had eaten it or something, and then apparently he's just got a hiding spot down the back that doesn't want to tell anybody about.
Which wasn't even a hiding spot because the tank is empty.
Yeah. He just sit in the corner or something.
I did have someone come out yesterday from the fish club. Stephen came out and visited because he was in the area.
Shout out. Yeah.
And he spotted some of my bristle noses and said, "Oh, those are big, nice bristle noses." So I was like, "Yeah, it's pretty much what I do, you know."
Bristle nose maestro.
Yeah, he's commenting on my plants too, and I was like, "Yep, that's me. Yeah, I'm pretty much an aquascaper."
Damn, Daniel, you're a master plant and bristle nose.
Well, I do need to find a home for those. I do need to find a home for those longfin bristle noses because they're not really doing a lot for me.
I'll take them.
Yeah, so then if you want them, you can have them.
You should just chuck them with all the fry and stuff. The fry won't pick at them.
Yeah, I feel bad for them because they've still got long fins, but I just wonder how much longer their fins would be if I didn't keep them with my Africans, and how much nicer they'd be.
A lot more.
Because I think they do pick at them a little bit. They're definitely not
lame.
They're not living their worst life, but they're not living their best life either. So they do need to go and move along.
Yeah,
they don't seem to be
makes sense,
suffering, but they don't really like it. So.
Yeah, makes sense. What have you been up to, Cam?
First of all, I want to premise it and start with up the wires. I'm glad that I got that out of my system. Thank you very much.
I don't even know what that is this morning. Here to explain it to me.
You do too. Go the Warriors. Right. I drilled some holes in some PVC yesterday.
Bro, that is so dangerous. I would have never expected that from you.
You know what?
Did you use like a little one of those little kids drills that it just makes the sounds and stuff and
No, but I do have a kid's sport.
Running along behind the builder
With
the little
no,
toy.
I drilled some proper holes. Just call me Daddy DIY because I Daddy DIY'd it.
I'm definitely never calling you that. Just saying.
Yes, you are. That's my new nickname, Daddy DIY. From now on. So anyway, I put all the piping up. I wouldn't call it plumbing, but all the air line for the air manifold for the new expansion. So I hooked all that up.
You're using 1 inch or 40 mil PVC, are you, for your airline?
Yeah.
And then you're drilling and screwing in metal stainless fittings, eh?
No, I'm using irrigation tee stuff. So screwed one end, barb the other end, and screwing it in, and then putting the air line over top of the barb.
So you're using the plastic irrigation ones?
Yeah.
And just fanging them into a hole. Not you tapping it first, or just jamming them in?
Daddy DIY does not tap anything. Just drill a hole, screw it in with 4 fingers.
Yeah, just whack it in there. Yeah.
Yep, stuff it in. So yeah.
That's what she said.
So so that's basically all of the expansion to go. I've got one side of a rack to go, or one side of a stand to go. So that's currently we're up to 77 aquariums running off that one air pump. So we'll push the limits of it and see how far we get with it.
What air pump is it?
Helia.
It's like a Helia.
Yeah. The HAP 100.
I feel like that's the same one as I have.
Maybe.
Did you have one of those big noisy steel ones, or did that go?
Oh no, I do, but I'm pretty sure it's Helia brand.
Yeah, there's two sizes of them. There's a 60 and 100.
There's a reason why your videos are like so loud.
Well, the funny thing is, with my shop, the air pump is much quieter than the road, so it doesn't really matter. The road is so noisy anyway.
Yeah, I've got a couple of those big metal units under the house that are just too noisy to use.
They're great for backups, for just in cases, but they're terrible.
Yeah, that's all they'll ever be. Yeah, they're quite powerful though. They're more powerful than a linear one, I believe. They do more. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
I'll take the quiet any day of the week. Thank you very much.
What's that?
I'll take the quiet any day of the week.
Yeah. I have to. Where my fish pump is, my fish room is. My fish room is already noisy and stinky enough, so I don't want anything else.
In the last shop we set up, the building is designed set up so like my shop was at the front. There was the chocolate maker at the back, and above us was a bunch of social workers. And so the first week we turned up, put a really big old steel air pump into it because the new one hadn't arrived, and like within 2 days the social workers from upstairs are coming down saying it's too noisy, it's vibrating all of our stuff and you got to turn it off sort of scenario. So good thing they didn't have to wait too long because the air pump was on the way, but I needed it running, so tough for them for a few days.
Yeah, we've got a flat that we rent out next to the fish room, and the old guy that lives in there is very, very sensitive to sound, to light, to everything. Yeah. So, like, pretty much like stuck layers of foam between the mounts of the air pump and stuff, so it didn't vibrate onto the outside of the room and stuff. And it had to be absolutely immaculate. Like sometimes if I even go out there and feed the fish after 8:30, if he's tired, he sends me abusive messages saying, "What are you doing? I'm trying to sleep," and stuff. So it's got to be very quiet.
You're not
And it was the only place. It was the only place I was allowed to hide a fish room, so it just has to be what it is to work best for everyone.
You could evict them and then triple up the size of your fish room.
Yeah,
think of the money you could make. Think of your fish room.
Think of the money you can make. I love that. Yeah, that sounds like a fucking a hole in the ground to me. But yes, we've definitely considered. Cam and I have a little plan of what may happen if he does leave. But
are you going to convert that swimming pool into a grow up?
I'd need to get the whole the home boss approval, and I don't know if I can get the home boss approval for that.
Yeah, there you go. Give her a ring, that'll do it straight away.
So I need to wait for him to leave before I can do that, so that I've got some leverage. Otherwise, I've got nothing.
Pretty sure.
I always reckon just chuck a second fish room on the top, man. She'll be right.
yeah.
Stack some containers. Just go 8 tall or something. Yeah, exactly.
I'm not even sure if the foundations that I created for this container are gonna last.
So if they're not going to last anyway, you may as well go all in.
I think they'll be okay, but
she can only get angry at you once.
Well, I did pass that advice on online the other day when someone was talking about getting a bigger tank. I was like, just do it. She's probably going to forgive you, but she's probably not going to give permission. So you're better just to do it.
Just do it.
You're more likely to get forgiven than get permission. So
yeah, absolutely, and it's far easier to get forgiveness.
Yeah, well, once you've done it, it's done.
Yeah.
But asked and to get it done is just so much harder. So, here's our relationship advice for the morning.
3 idiots talk aquariums and relationships.
I'm surprised we're not all single. I noticed young Cam was sitting quietly. His missus must be awake.
Ryan definitely just walked away from his computer and I can't hear what the hell he's saying. So.
Damn, Daniel, stay close to your mic.
Stop saying that. That's old people.
I'm going to keep saying it just because it's hilarious.
Damn, Daniel.
Oh, my God. All right, well, we'll get into the main topic for today. I don't have anything too exciting.
The main event.
I don't have anything exciting to report, and we've been going for a long time. So the main topic for today's episode is water testing and water parameters and stuff, because I think there's a lot of mental advice going around, Facebook and online forums and like.
Sorry, I just found a setting to make my microphone on my headset work. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, that's so much clearer.
Yeah. So and now I can walk around like this, see, and you can hear me.
Oh, nice.
For those that are listening, Ryan's walked away.
That's what
he
I
just
thought.
On a lap of his table.
That's what I thought I was doing the whole time.
Damn.
But I was not.
Well,
so it's one of those damn.
You keep walking away, and then no one can ever hear you.
Yeah, because I thought it was. It turns out that the noise was coming out of these speakers, these headphones, but it was not going into them.
Oh.
It was going into the computer instead. So there we go.
You're a technical wizard.
Oh yeah.
And a pleco breeder and plant genius.
Oh fuck.
Yeah, man. Just add into that rap sheet.
It's like that was pretty much. Well, what would I say to that? Damn, Daniel. I'm glad I found that setting.
So, as I was saying, we're talking about water testing today, and as you can probably guess, Ryan doesn't seem to be too excited about it, but we are talking about water testing and parameters and that, because there is a lot of really crazy advice that goes around talking to people in that, and a lot of misunderstandings, and just generally, like, let's clean this bad boy up. I mean, that's what we're here for. Make fish keeping easy and clear. So let's go.
Would you say that some of the advice is cap?
I would say that, yes. I should also probably explain what's happening. I made fun of Ryan and Cam the other day for saying "damn Daniel," and now that's all I hear all my life is them trying to be young, and I don't know. I just can see like the grey hairs popping out on their heads and stuff. They're just seeming more old. Not that Ryan has any hairs, but hey.
And Cam
So-
got his little kid to say it. It was so cute. So yeah, that's all I can remember.
Not me, Cam. I don't have a little kid. The other little Cam. But yeah. So if you hear random stupid stuff from 2015 all the time, that would be why. But
Bussin'.
back on topic again. I was going to say, what parameters? Can you just shut up? What parameters need? Oh, okay. I was going to ask Cam, but I'll ask you, Ryan. What are the main parameters that are important to think about in an aquarium? Ryan, talk.
That was a dramatic pause. Do you like that?
Yeah, I
At
know.
least they can.
I know.
At least they can. You can probably imagine what my face looks like, even if you're listening on Spotify. Yeah, I mean, I don't really do any testing. When I actually got some test kits off Cam recently just to measure pH and KH and all that sort of stuff. But I'm not a big
That was more
fan
than a
of-
year ago.
Yeah, and then I measured one of my tanks and stuff with it, and the fish didn't like it and died. Some of them died, so now I don't do it anymore. So that's my thing. But I mean, it's nice to know what your pH is and your GH and your KH and all that sort of stuff is.
How did
But I
your fish
wouldn't-
die from water testing?
They died from me as a
Okay.
result of me deciding that the water testing wasn't right and reading a book and then messing with it.
Yeah, with you. Yeah. So
Um,
not the water test itself. It was
Not the water testing itself,
the
but
afterwards you playing with it. Yeah, okay, with you.
To
Yeah,
be
mate.
fair, these were some of the most sensitive fish about that you were messing with. So Come
and
on.
I probably did it too.
Trophies.
I did it too probably too fast. Like but then when I did a water change, I was like doing a 50% water change, and then I was like, I have to keep chucking the stuff in as it's filling to not just pour it all in with a little bit of water and make it as so it got too hard, so I gave up on it. And then I've just dumped more lime into all my tanks, more limestone. So but yeah, I guess for a beginner it is important to know what those things are just so you're aware of it. But I wouldn't get too crazy about chasing any of that stuff. When the fish look sad, I do a water change and they look happy again. So that's my water testing.
That
I know what I
probably-
need to do to maintain it.
that leads into one thing I really wanted to talk about, and that is, you say like when the fish looks sad, you do water change in that, but I'm gonna say a lot of people, probably the majority of people, don't know when a fish looks sad, because
and
realistically,
I've got a lot of
realistically, that
experience to
only
be able to
comes
tell
with-
that, eh?
yeah, I was gonna say that only comes with time and like a lot of time. And if you've been keeping fish for 2 years, say, it's very hard to know what's going on. So I'd say testing is really important, and a lot of people kind of walk away from it far too fast. And I mean, it is important in the sense that like there's no other way to really know what's going on in the tank. And the thing is, it's not. So I don't know exactly how to bring this up, but I'm gonna tell a story that has happened to me. I have customers with it all the time who come in and they're like, something has gone wrong in the tank, like all the fish have been keeling over or something like that. And the first question I always ask is, what is the parameters? Because like obviously that's the first question you're going to ask. And a lot of times it's going to be like, oh, I don't test the water, like I just do water changes and it's fine. It's like the parameters are fine, I know they're fine, but you know, it's got like a fungal infection or something. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, bring some water in and we'll double check. And then, you know, there's a massive cycle crash and everything's out of whack. And it happens a lot of times because like a lot of people kind of just forget to look at it. And it has happened to me before where I'm like, oh yeah, this won't be the problem. It'll be something else. But then it is that, sort that out, and then everything's fine again. So I'm very much not a fan of that don't test thing. I think it works for some people if you've been doing it for a very long time and very stable tanks and all that. But aside from that, I'm not a fan, shall we say.
And
Well,
it does give the person, the beginner especially, or anyone, the ability to know exactly what is going on, especially if you measure the ammonia, right? Or the, you go, boom, what is going on? My fish look like crap. Measure the ammonia. Okay, I know what's going on now. I can take some steps to figure out why my fish are dropping dead. I haven't found cycles to crash as easily as everyone on the internet says. Like people say, if you vacuum your gravel and clean your filter at the same time, it's going to turn into a pumpkin and all the fish are going to start dying and the crash cycle's going to crash and it's all going to be like, Chernobyl inside your tank. But I haven't found that myself. But
yeah,
I think with you, because you do big water changes every day, so probably you do, like, it's very possible you have issues, but you just water change through it before it even becomes a problem.
And most of my fish are pretty hardy, so like,
yeah, exactly.
And the ones that aren't, like the Tropheus or the Shellies and stuff, don't get kept in high densities like the Malawis do. So I probably got buffers that way, but yeah.
What do you reckon, Cam? Cycle crash. So I've always found that.
Me?
Yeah, like a cycle crash to be an interesting concept, as well as old tank syndromes both being interesting concepts. Like,
I think cycle crash is generally for me like a catch-all term of when some stuff's gone massively wrong with the cycle. Like maybe it's like, so this leads into something else that I want to talk about as well, which is particularly in Auckland, we have very soft tap water. And so what happens is when you've got no KH, basically what happens is the pH, it doesn't take much for the pH to just tank, like go off the charts low, and then the denitrifying bacteria goes dormant basically, and can't process ammonia, and then ammonia and nitrate shoot up. And so that happens quite a lot, which I would consider as a cycle crash. And then there's also all the other stuff of like overfeeding or over cleaning the filter or stuff like that, excess waste. But yeah, generally I kind of just use it as a catch-all term of like stuff's gone horribly wrong.
Cool. So
what the hell?
Right. So basically removing blame from essentially poor husbandry.
Yeah, I mean, because it isn't necessary. It can be that, but it can also be other stuff that's like not. I wouldn't say like poor husbandry. I'd say it's like a lack of knowledge, which of course happens.
A lot of beginners get set up too, right? They start off with a small tank. They usually put too many fish
stability.
Yeah, they.
Sorry, I had to cough.
They may or may not cycle the tank properly, which we're not going to get into because we all know everyone's stance on that. And yeah, they don't know how much to feed. They have got all these sometimes weird ideas off the internet that they have to get this bucket of water and heat it up and spend like 14 hours doing a water change and siphoning it in and doing all this crazy stuff. So they don't do as many water changes as they probably should or could. And it just can turn into a bit of a drama.
But early doors isn't a cycle crash.
What's
like
that?
What you're explaining to me is someone really early doors within keeping an aquarium, like the first 3 or 4 months. I think cycle crash. I think a tank that's been running for 18 months, 2 years, and all of a sudden shit hits the fan. As opposed
I think it's definitely.
It could be both. It could be either. I reckon it could be either. Like because sometimes I guess when you're first starting out, you can have a tank. I mean, I haven't really done all the scientific stuff, but I've read up on it a bit, and I think that you can have a tank that's sort of kind of cycled, but not really cycled. It's kind of like a mini cycle or something, and then you can just
go from fresh to mature, or new to old, or whatever way you want to put it.
I think what you're saying is people think it's a cycle crash, but really it was just not a cycle properly to start with.
But that or use the error is it, I think that's
Yeah. But they've got
I'm
so
gonna say
much
something.
less. They've got so much less area for latitude, especially if we're thinking like you're always saying that neon tetras are really sensitive, and then all of a sudden we've got the small tank that's probably not cycled properly, whatever that was, with neon tetras in it usually, and they're overfeeding a little bit, and it's all just bad to start with.
So that's use error. That's not a cycle crash per se.
But that's where water testing will be important. And you tell what you need to say, young Cam, go.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that doesn't matter in the sense that just feels like that's semantics. Basically, like the cycle's messed up, something's gone wrong. And it could be because it wasn't cycled to begin with. It could be because it was and then something went wrong later on. But I'm going to say it doesn't 100% matter in which is which, because it's like basically cycling issues in a general sense, and like in its totality, because the solutions are generally pretty similar, not necessarily the same, but like once you're in that position, you would kind of have similar stuff to have to work out and work through. So yeah.
Yeah, I understand where you're going and where you're coming from. I don't totally agree because a lot of the I know, right? Damn, Daniel, how dare I not agree? I think
You've
a
got
lot
to
of
put a bit more enthusiasm into your damn Daniel. It just sounds like you're saying it.
Damn, Daniel,
You've got to
how
believe
dare I
it.
not
Yeah.
agree?
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Like a lot of these cycle crash issues don't happen when the tank is mature. Like it's, I'm not a huge fan.
Yeah, of course. I'm not necessarily saying that, but I'm saying more that what has happened doesn't necessarily matter as much as what you do to fix it.
Okay.
And what you do to fix it is generally similar. It might not be exactly the same, but it's pretty similar, like water changes, limit waste, add some beneficial bacteria via means.
Whichever method you believe in.
Exactly. All that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's necessarily the most important part in terms of that distinction there.
Okay.
So yeah, what would you say is the most important things to test, Cam, for like the average hobbyist that's like maybe been keeping fish for a year? Well, actually, no, I take that back. Just for the general hobbyist, like an average hobbyist who doesn't, who is not like got hundreds of aquariums and wants to know what's going on.
So we're basing this on someone who's had a tank for a little while, or not at all, because different stages, obviously different testing, like tank's been up and running for a year or so.
Just like an average person, like the average hobbyist. So like maybe they got one or two tanks that's been like established and set up for like a year, but not like crazy, super into the weeds with the hobby, just like general, like a normal person, not a nutcase like us.
What is normal? What is normal? Someone who keeps fish. It's pretty weird thing to say.
Yeah. General, your standard ammonia, nitrite, and nitrate are kind of what I think needs to be tested. I'm not as much on the pH bandwagon.
I disagree.
For a general sort of hobbyist,
I think for pH and KH and GH, you could go into your pet shop and get that measured, and then you go, okay, I know what that is. It's probably not going to change.
Yeah.
I disagree.
Especially KH.
I wholeheartedly disagree with both of you.
I think KH is important, like Cam said before, because but KH is really important because that's your buffering, that's your stability, that's your. Oh shit! I said the wrong word. I said the boo-boo word. It's what keeps the pH from changing easily. So yeah, it is important to know. I think KH is probably one of the key ones. But
all right, so it's Cammy rant time. I'm gonna.
Right.
You asked me what I wanted to say, so I'm going to tell you first. I
don't care what your opinion is.
I think by no stretch of the imagination do I think that pH, KH, and GH is not important. I just don't think it's important for the people that have like the 1 or 2 aquariums, as you're talking about. Once the tank is matured and away you go.
I disagree. I think it's essential.
Well, you would, because you're cap. Yeah, boy.
See, now this podcast isn't even anything useful. It's just using terms in incorrect situations.
Wrong way, but anyway, that was good. I like that.
Okay, so I think KH and pH is essential. I think, in my opinion, the API master test kit should have a KH test in it, 100%. So the reason for this is by measuring KH.
That's why it's not on the test. It's not on the test kit, so they can sell you another test kit afterwards.
Exactly, but that's not my problem. I'd say get rid of the high range pH. No one cares. Get a KH in there instead.
It isn't it?
Let me talk. So by measuring KH and pH, you can solve so many issues before they even happen. Like, if you go on a Facebook or a forum or something, if someone mentions the word pH, then you get all these people just jumping on them like, oh, don't chase it, don't chase it, don't chase it. As long as it's stable, it's fine. And then you're like, the KH is non-existent. It's not stable. What do I do? And then the people are like, oh, I have no idea. I don't understand the question. And it's because it's like a lot of times it's just parroting information that's been seen on a different Facebook thing or a different forum or something. But by having an understanding of where your KH is, where your pH is, and how they interact, it will stop issues in terms of the ammonia, nitrite, and nitrate before they happen. Because like I said, in Auckland especially, obviously I'm in Auckland, so that's most of the hobbyists I deal with are from Auckland. Out the tap, can you shut up? Out the tap, there's basically no KH. Like, you do a test and the test just like doesn't work because there's none. And so what always happens, like literally multiple people every single week have this happen, where maybe you'll put a piece of driftwood or something in the tank, the pH will tank, the ammonia and nitrite will shoot up, and we have no idea what's going on basically until we figure it out. Like, average people don't know. And with that kind of thing, especially like if you're a bit more into the aquascaping on that, like using the driftwood in that, which is gonna damage the KH more, then people just run into so many issues, and just knowing where they sit would solve all of these issues before they even happen. And then everything's fine basically. So yeah, cool. That's my unpopular opinion.
I'm going to refer to what I said about 5 minutes ago before we went on your rant. It's not that I don't think pH, KH, and GH is important. I just don't think it's all that important for people that don't really give a shit. In your words you've used on previous episodes, need to know.
I think they do, though, in the sense that if in my opinion, if you're testing the other stuff, you have to test that. Otherwise, you don't actually know where stuff is sitting at, and like where the tank is sitting. In terms of like, it's your safety blanket. So
I don't disagree with you, but what I'm saying is the parameters that you put on the question for the people that have got 1 or 2, your family hobbyists, all that kind of scenario, that actually aren't that deep in the hobby, they don't need to know or how that works. Because a couple of weeks ago, you were going, oh, no one needs to know about the science behind how a cycle works and how much of this works and all that kind of stuff. It's exactly the same. It's exactly the same sort of scenario. They don't need to know this, don't need to be overwhelmed with this information.
Well, that's a bit of a misunderstanding then, because that's not 100% who I was talking about. I wasn't necessarily talking about family people. I don't think family people need to test water at all, really.
Well, what's the difference? I was talking more about having a family aquarium or having just 1 or 2 aquariums. You're still keeping an aquarium, so you can't have one and not the other.
Are you discriminating against families?
No, I'm saying a family doesn't need a test. A family, like, what a family should, like, So in my mind, I have this very specific type of hobbyist called like a family hobbyist, which is like just people with like their kids and that. What they should do is they should just go like. It's hard because I can't guarantee that a pet shop will give you the right advice, but just take water into the pet shop every couple of weeks and just do what they tell you to. Like, oh yeah, your nitrates are a little bit high, just do a water change. And it's like, don't need to know why, don't particularly care. But I was talking more about like maybe the more into it hobbyists who like, the family hobbyist is like someone who like doesn't even know the name of the fish. It's like that's a blue one, that's a red one, that kind of thing. Whereas I was talking about like people who know about fish, listen to podcasts about fish, but they're not like, fish rooms packed with all sorts of random stuff. That's kind of who I was talking about. So that's misunderstanding. I agree with what you're saying, but I was talking about something else. So
I think
it happens. Don't fight me.
I think you're right about the family or the casual fish keeper, I guess we'll call them, that just has a tank in their house because they're cool, and we want to make sure they keep them all alive, but we don't want to overwhelm them with
exactly
with being mad scientists. And that person should be finding a really good local hobbyist or a really good local store, and just like you say, basically just saying what they did: stick this one fish in, feed this much every second day, do a water change every week. Bring me a water sample, and they just they're cruising past. Usually there'll be a local shop that's right down the road or whatever, and as they go their groceries, they drop a water test in, and then whatever, so it's not like a big
thing.
And
like the kind of thing is like I get people like on their weekend walks, just like walk past, drop it off, and leave. Then like I just text them like, oh, I don't even necessarily tell them the results. I'm just like, just do this. Do like nitrate's a little bit high, do a water change. Problem solved. Like they don't necessarily need to know all the science behind it because that's just gonna confuse them more. And then
sorry, that's one of my favorite people. Not because we don't have people walk past because I'm in the industrial area. But the people that come
past on their horses,
riding their horses past, or going down to the sale yard or whatever it is, to the tavern.
Anyway,
the shipyard.
I've got high nitrates. What product do I need to fix it? You don't need any product. You need about 10 minutes to do a water change, save you money, problem solved, boom. That's one of my most favorite things to try and fix for people.
Exactly, yeah. And like, because I think I mentioned it on another podcast, like there's so many ways to get at that problem. Like I think I said I have one guy who like their tank is on their bench, just like a little like 30-liter tank, and every day when he is getting his coffee in that, he just takes a cup. He has like a measuring jug on top, takes a cup out, tips it down the sink, tips a fresh cup in, does that every day, works out to be like a 70% water change or something every week or something, like heaps, and doesn't even like think about it. It's just like, you're in the morning, you're all sleepy in that, you're just waiting for the jug to boil, just do it. The tank's fine, but I don't need to know all the parameters for it. It's just job done. So that's kind of, I guess, what I was trying to get at in terms of the family stuff. But in terms of the like a actual hobbyist, more than like a super casual person, I think the pH and the KH is so important, and it just gets neglected.
And again, what I said, not that I don't think pH, KH, and GH is important, because I think they are.
I'm not attacking you, man. I'm trying to add value.
Hey, shut up. Let me talk. You told me to shut up. I've got the talking pen.
Well, shut up.
Like, it's not. I don't think. I think, like you said, we're on a slightly different point of where we were talking about with people there.
So, for the kind of people who would listen to a podcast about fish, what would you? I have a
question.
No.
So you go. Everyone goes on, oh my God, your pH is too low, your tank's never going to cycle. How do black water tanks and discus tanks and low pH tanks have a cycled? Are they just not cycled? Do they not work? Are they broken?
I have no idea. I'm not going to lie, I have no idea, but there is definitely a point.
They're broken.
There is a point where the pH gets too low and the denitrifying bacteria go dormant. And
ammonia goes to ammonium from memory. I think that's the right chemical.
So, but I mean, people have tanks with low pHs that are cycled and happy and have all that stuff going on.
Yeah, there's probably a level of maturity in the aquarium that helps that as well.
I'm not gonna
So-
lie, I have no idea how that works because whenever that happens,
Because
like
I always thought that was a load of shit, but I don't know.
yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I don't understand that because everyone's like, oh, ammonia goes to ammonium, which is not toxic, but then literally every day there's people in that situation where all the fish are dying, and then you get rid of the ammonium, and then everything goes back to being healthy. So yeah, that one obviously I don't deal with a ton of low pH tanks because like even the community stuff we do is like mostly guppies and stuff, like stuff
think-
that like doesn't like. I don't do low pH or blackwater stuff, so I don't
think the key
understand it.
word
But
is ammonium is the less toxic in the same
Yeah.
sense that nitrate is less toxic than ammonia and nitrite. High levels of nitrate is still toxic long term, where I'm suspecting that high levels of ammonium is still going to be toxic long term.
that is
Or-
what I. So that is my personal understanding, but I didn't massively want to talk about that because I don't think I know enough to have an opinion. But I think that from my understanding, like a little bit safer than a little bit of ammonia, but high levels of both is still going to kill stuff.
Okay, so something that I do know you've got an opinion on, or will have an opinion on. Totally
Stability?
on topic. No, totally on topic. Why am I? You guys are always like, "Hey, we can't talk about this." I'm like the one that doesn't, and you guys both just continue to throw the jabs. Like,
Because it's funny.
make up the rules.
It's comedy gold. This is
All right.
three idiots talk aquariums and do stand up comedy. I don't know if I told you that.
Can you change the product from stability to nutrient cycle? Because I don't stop that. Anyway, so something I know that you will have an opinion on is
Cycle.
No,
You, to be fair, you asked for that.
vetoed.
Is so test kits. Which ones are good? Which ones are not? Strip test kits, digital tests, liquid tests, particular brands. What works for you? What doesn't work for you? Where do you sit on that fence? What's going on? And
So-
a little bit deeper into that, we're all dealing with hobbyist grade equipment. How much of that do you actually believe, and how much do you think is just a grain of salt compared to when you get into proper laboratory stuff?
Bad boy, this is a fantastic question, and I'm going
I
to talk
know
for like
it.
10 minutes right now. So,
I know.
liquid test kits are the shit.
I
Just use the API one. API is the best. Aqua one is junk. Sarah I haven't used, but looks very complicated, so don't bother with that. Test strips, they all suck. Don't use any of them. They're all a waste of money.
That I totally disagree with, but we'll get back to that.
Shut up. The JBL one that you use on your phone, don't use that. That's a load of junk. Yeah, I think that's all the bridges burned I have. I don't really know if I have any other. I don't know if I can think of any other ones, but they're all junk basically, except use API and don't bother with any else. The liquid tests they're gonna show you exactly what you need to know. As Cam sort of what's the lobbed up for me? Then they're not good. They're not perfect. Like if you get like those reefing what do they call them, ICP tests, that's going to tell you more. You do a proper lab test, that's going to tell you more. But obviously that's expensive, and a general hobbyist doesn't need to spend that much money. The API liquid test kit's going to tell you enough to know what's going on, but it's not going to be 100% perfect. Especially the ammonia test, I find, is always a little bit greener than the picture. So I always say, as long as it's like, as long as it,
like this, pretending this is your test tube, do you test it that way, or do you test it looking down on it?
sideways.
If you look down on it, you get a far more accurate reading. So you put it
I've
down,
done both, to be honest.
down, you get a far more accurate reading, or particularly with the ammonia, if you go down then across.
I think I've identified the problem is, I think in the shop, especially, I think the light, because the light's a bit orange, it gives it a weird color.
So this isn't a problem that just you experience.
Oh.
It's a problem with the test kit itself. It's slightly harder to read. So if you look down on it, no matter where you are, you get a more accurate reading because it's not got the colors beside it adjusting that thing. So if you go straight up and down on it, You can get a far more accurate.
It's also less affected by light, because if you're looking through it, the ambient light affects how bright and dull it is.
This isn't a you problem like most things in the world. This is a general a little bit of advice to work on those test kits.
Well, what I was going to say is, I always say if it's less than 0.25 or 0. Whatever, if it's less than the lowest green, don't worry about it. Yeah, don't worry about it. It's like it might be like, at worst there might be a tiny bit of ammonia, but your fish are going to be okay, and the cycle's going to be able to handle that. But it's like with what I was saying before, is like it's enough where it's like close enough where you can understand what's going on, and it might not be laboratory acceptable, but hey, we're just at home playing scientist.
So we also often talk about products that aren't accurate, products that don't always work, products that seem to be a little bit hard with user error. We've spoken about various canister filters before that don't quite do what they're meant to do, and people make a mistake with them. The API nitrate test is commonly cocked up by basically everybody. This product doesn't work properly to most people, so why are you promoting a product that is so often made mistakes with?
Because I don't think there's a better alternative. And it's like, if you do it right, it works, but I don't think there's a better alternative around. Like, it's not great, but it's better. You know, if someone else comes in and invents a better one, I'll be all over that bad boy. Like, I am planning on giving the Seachem one a test, but I'm not gonna lie, I haven't got around to it yet, but it is on my list of things to try. I don't know if that's going to be more accurate, but
what about the digital ones?
Bro, do I look like I'm made of money?
It's not about being accurate, because both of them are just hobbyist grade. And how do you determine one works and one doesn't? It's more about making sure the result actually gets read every time, which doesn't.
I'm saying
to work it properly.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily saying accurate. I was meaning more like user friendly.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. I probably meant accurate as in like ability to make it accurate, if that makes sense. But
okay,
I agree. I chose a bad word. But yeah, I think it is accurate enough if you use it right. So basically, just shake the hell out of it, and then when you think you're done shaking it, you should probably shake it some more, and then it will read the right answer. So like,
and give
it's
it time.
fine.
You've got to give it time to actually change.
And the other one is
for that reason.
Yeah, the other thing is nitrate is probably the least important one. Like, I'm not a fan of saying it's not important, because it is essential. But if you go an extra week between, like, if you test every week and 1 week you stuff it up, not like the whole world isn't going to come crashing down in that 1 week till you test it next time and you do it properly. Whereas if the ammonia is all stuffed up for a week, then that's going to be a much bigger problem, and stuff is going to go wrong. So that's what I'm going to say. But I do definitely agree it is a pain in the ass.
Yeah. So I'm going to touch back on your basic hatred of test strips, and I'm going to disagree with you.
No, you disagree with me on something?
I actually think they're ridiculously good for your general early days beginner family aquarist, if you want to call it that. It takes literally no time, and it gives an indication, much like those Seachem things that you put inside the tank, the alerts. It just gives a little quick sight of what's going on.
I don't know if I could disagree. I don't know if I could disagree anymore with what you just said.
Is it going to detect stuff? Is it actually going to detect anything, though?
Yeah, yes. You're all about making people's lives easier. Test strips are significantly easier and give you a very quick snapshot.
Oh, I agree. But especially for that shut up. For that situation. Sorry, I'm getting a bit fired up again.
Just breathe in.
Breathe 3 seconds in.
Yeah. Okay. But what I was gonna say is, so for that situation, test strips don't even test for the most important thing, which is ammonia. Correct. Test strips don't even test for it. But in that situation, that's probably if you could have one thing to test for, that would probably be the thing that you'd want to test for. So like
I've always been really
that's a bit of a
interested to know why they don't. I'm assuming it's some sort of chemical reaction between it all, which means they can't, because not a single test strip has ammonia on the multi-tests.
From what I've read when I looked at it very briefly like 4 years ago, it's just very hard to make them test ammonia. And like
So
it's not impossible, but it's hard and more expensive.
Aquarium Co-op has a test strip just for ammonia as well, so it's obviously doable. So why aren't they on the test strips?
Because of price, I think, is my memory. Like it's just harder to make, and then obviously that's going to increase the price, and then no one's going to buy them. So it's an industry thing, not a science problem necessarily.
Yeah,
the dippy things have always been very common in pools and spas and stuff, and always like completely accepted by the industry. It's been accurate enough. I guess maybe they can measure pH and hardness and chlorine and stuff accurately, but maybe they can't measure ammonia just yet. I don't know.
But like
I think for spa pools, there's
your test kits were hobbyist grade. So if these test kits are giving you an indication, all the hobbyist grade liquid tests are giving you an indication as well.
I mean, if there's ammonia and it says there's ammonia, then you know there's ammonia. It doesn't matter how much ammonia, you know you've got a problem.
Yeah,
so,
like,
exactly. But I don't think the test strips.
They don't, unfortunately.
Test strips though is not because there's like that. I guess the general idea we've been beating around the bush on is like there is a. It doesn't need to be exact. It needs to give a close enough, like a usable range,
Yes.
and test strips I don't think give that range to a usable degree.
They do, and you're wrong.
Well, I've used plenty of them that give me stupid advice.
So my next
wrong.
question is, so like this is test strip showing this, and this liquid test kit showing this. What one do you believe is the correct one? Without having laboratory grade stuff, they're both giving you an indication.
Well, so for this, I'm going to say probably this is going to be bad advice for a hobbyist, but for me, at least in terms of because I did use the Sierra ones for a little bit, because I got given some for free, and I used them, and the KH in particular was. I don't remember the exact numbers, but the KH said something, and then the liquid test said something that was different. I think the Sierra test said it was quite like medium range, and then the liquid test said it was nothing. But going off all the other tests and what I was observing in the tank, I could tell that there wasn't any KH going on, and so I was able to kind of build that picture using other means. I'm going to say, don't do that for an average hobbyist, because it's hard, and I don't know how to say this without making myself sound like a tosser, but like you kind of need experience to know what's going on. But that is kind of how specifically with that Sierra test strip and an API liquid kit, that's how I was able. That was the tank on my desk. If anyone's gone to the shop. That is how I worked out.
For the duller one with one or two fish in it.
The one with like a few swordtails and stuff. That's how I worked out that one was wrong.
It'd be cool if they invented one that you just put it in, and then everything was green, and then it went like red, and then you looked it up, and it said if anything goes red, do a water change.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Have I got a product for you? The JBL Pro Scan had such a great potential, but it sucks.
I've never even looked at. I've looked at it like once ages ago. Worked out it was shitty, and then never went back.
Yeah, so it's an app on your phone. You do your liquid test. You take a photo. It does it all digital. Fantastic, but it's so inaccurate. It's not funny. Like you can test You can test the same thing, put them side by side, take photos, all that kind of stuff, and then it comes up with totally different readings. Which is.
But I thought accuracy doesn't matter.
When we're talking about swings of like 0 nitrite to 3.0 nitrite on the same test, I'm pretty sure that is inaccurate. Yeah,
but so what I was saying is, I've had similar instances with all the test strips, and that's not necessarily nitrite, but like swings that's big enough to be significant, not like the random variances in liquid.
Well, you're wrong. I don't
Okay.
believe you. Straight up. You just
Fair
want to
enough.
argue.
No, like when I've used them before, I get all sorts of random stuff going on, which is not, useful.
For the sake of just a quick, easy test strip, dip tests are fantastic.
Sure.
And
Agree
unfortunately,
to disagree.
my favorite one was the Sarah ones aren't in the country anymore, which sucks. Because they did chlorine, KH, GH, pH. They did the whole entire range.
Yeah, I will agree with that. I think there does need. I would. So the problem is, if they were around, I don't think anyone would buy them. But I would very much appreciate a chlorine test strip. I think that would be a liquid test. I think that would be so useful, but I can't find it.
Hana does the digital ones.
I think you can just go to buy the
Well, I
tea
don't
and
wanna
spend
buy a
$20
Hana
and buy a pool one.
Well, I've given you a solution to your problem, and now you're just shutting me down. That's busting.
Well, because I don't want to spend $500 on a test is the problem.
They're not $500.
How much are they?
Like $80 retail. Go check out Eastern Marine. You'll have them.
Okay. Maybe I'll buy one. Yeah.
And so, like, now we get to another point. Like,
sorry, that was unprofessional.
We're freshwater keepers, and we are going by these hobbyist liquid tests or dip tests. When we get into saltwater keepers, the majority of them are using like a proper digital readout display, more accurate testing kit sort of scenario. Why are we not doing that? Why are we happy to sit on these things?
Because it's about. I mean, this is my opinion. That's probably going to sound bad, but it's just price.
To Bunnings or Mitre and get it tested as if it was a pool as well, if you wanted to know exactly what it was.
We're still talking chlorine or everything.
Chlorine, pH, KH, hardness, they do it all. So why is my pool? Can you test my pool water for me, please?
But yes, I was going. In terms of what Cams was saying, I think it is just a price thing.
Yeah.
Because the test kits do exist, and like digital readouts and stuff do exist, but they're not widely used, and no one really buys them. So we just use it.
Pretty close to going over the edge and buying one of those proper digital readers that Aqua House have.
Oh yeah, I wanted to buy one of those.
Yeah, I was getting pretty close. I might, because there's a couple of different forms of those digital disc readers or whatever you want to call them hanging around that give an accurate to like the 10th or whatever.
Those are what the pool guys use.
Are they required?
They use this little spinny disc thing with balls in it that shakes around and stuff. Yeah.
And like if you're dropping between $1,500 and $3,000 on a test kit, from a shop perspective, business perspective, how do you make your money back on that? Like, do you sell the test results to people that want them tested when they can go down the road and get them done for free in a not accurate hobbyist state? But that's all people really need. So like it's a weird kind of situation.
Does it save time though?
No, hell no.
Flat out.
It takes so much time.
Was that? Yeah. So that's probably the does it save you time? Because you can put it in there, you can push the button, you can go off and do something else and say, hey, have a look around, look at the fish, chill for a bit. And you're not counting drops and shaking things and looking at things and all that sort of stuff.
The one that I'm looking at can only test one thing at a time.
Alrighty.
So it's just like you do your ammonia, then you do your nitrite, then you do your pH. It's one per thing, and they take a bit of time to do it.
Dumb.
But the disc shaky ones do a whole lot at the same time, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's what you need. Why piss around with doing it one at a time?
Accuracy.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Yeah, when
but the thing is,
scraping and stuff like that, and they're wanting to know to the precise exactly what it is because their arcuata's not going orange enough, and they're trying to get some more orange out of it, and they want to know exactly what it is. They're willing to drop that little bit extra to get into it.
So what I was going to say is when we're talking about marine keeping, the other thing as well that I didn't mention is I think you do need to know a bit more precisely in terms of coral growth to know what's going on. Like the ballpark thing doesn't cut it. And I think those kind of tests will be, I think, getting more popular, like the digital testers and that, with the kind of growth of the high-tech aquascaping scene. But I'm going to say
You
that's probably
guys-
more to do with.
Are you saying something good's come out of aquascaping?
I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying that's the use for it, is like in terms of more the plant growth rather than the fish. Like if you're doing any of those crazy like EI methods or anything, you'd need to know a bit more precisely what's going on rather than for the fish ballparking it and they'll be fine. Which I think is kind of where fish and plants differ, because obviously fish move more than a plant. So yeah, opinions.
Yeah, but plants also need precise things for them to grow correctly. Or
Yeah, that's what
thrive.
I'm saying.
Oh, right.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying like the correlation is between plants and coral, and the fish are a bit more adept. Like it doesn't matter as much for a fish because they swim around more and like get washed away in that, so they're gonna survive either way. Whereas to get the most out of the plant or the most out of the coral, you'd need a bit more precise.
I understand now.
Because like obviously a plant doesn't swim around,
Yep.
except for duckweed, I guess.
Duckweed. Yeah,
Which is probably why duckweed is so bulletproof. Boom! I just invented a theory.
Invented a theory.
Yeah,
Right,
man, I'm so smart.
Now you got to test it 500 times to make sure you get it correct, like a real scientist.
Bro, I definitely have duckweed in 500 tanks, so problem solved.
Me too. My God, it just doesn't go away.
I love it. I have a problem where it doesn't grow fast enough. That's my genuine problem. Because so many people buy it.
I don't know if I love it. I don't think I'll go that far.
Yeah.
It's got its place. I like it in some settings.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's okay.
Oh, sorry, that wasn't professional again. I yawned. But so yeah, if you're talking about again, if we go back to the general hobbyist, what should they have in their arsenal, if anything, we've kind of discussed why and like what to test, but for a person who is listening to this podcast, what's your, I guess, closing argument of that? What should they have? What shouldn't they have?
General everyday test kit for the next level people, or whatever we were wanting to talking about it. The API master test kit are, pretty good at what they do. And equally, I think that the Zero drip tests they do what they need to do as well. So that'd
Sweet
be
as, yeah.
That'd be my two.
I guess for me, I'd say just don't, I guess, buy the... Can you shut up, Ryan? Can you mute your mic? I don't know what the hell he's doing, but he's making a lot of noise. Oh, nice. But I was going to say he just pulled the finger at me. I was going to say, don't buy the non-testing propaganda. I'm going to say it is important to test. You don't have to test every day or anything, but I definitely think it is something that everyone should do. Like, there's no... While you're standing there waiting for your tank to refill, just test the water.
That's a good point.
But
when do you do your water tests? Like, if you're standing there waiting to refill, it's already been diluted.
Well, yeah, take some water out before you start filling, obviously. But, yeah, I would say, like, at least every, like, fortnight, I reckon,
Another
for
question,
people to keep a good idea of what's going on.
Where do you take your water from where you're testing?
I don't know what that means.
So do you just skim the top, or do you mix it round? Do you find a spot down the bottom? I'm bringing this up because
you usually take it
I know what you're getting at.
Out of the fish
yes,
tank.
you do.
Out of the tank. Not out of the tap.
Thank
not
you
out
so
of your
much
drink bottle.
Thank you so much for contributing to this podcast. You've said hello to start with. You pulled the finger
And
at
then
us,
he's
and now you're telling us to test our water from our aquarium.
He's just walked off. He's so checked out of this episode.
Oh yeah, master plant breeder and master bristlenose breeder.
Exactly.
My point is, like, often if people are having issues with their bristlenose, for example, they're doing a water test from the top. But the bristlenose or plecos or catfish or whatever they're having issues with are down the bottom all the time. So reading up here, there could be patches of low flow where things are being built up down the bottom, which is causing issues for particular fish.
I'm going to say this probably goes back to a disagreement we had a couple of weeks ago. If you should have flow in your tank regardless, so you shouldn't have this problem.
100%. But it doesn't mean you're going to have no dead spots.
Well, then you've got to adjust some stuff.
Yeah, but you might not even know there's a dead spot, and all of a sudden all your corridors are getting ammonia burns on their gills, and they're losing all sorts of stuff.
I'm just checking back into this meth fueled theory. It's absolutely ridiculous. And even if you did have a dead,
I've got the power to mute him.
Even if you did have a dead spot, you're not going to go like, right, there's my dead spot, and get like a syringe in there and suck a little bit out to measure that exact point in your fish tank. You should have flow, and everything will be pretty much dissolved, and everything will pretty much be the same in the fish tank. It's not going to be like a bristlenose is just chilling in one spot where there happens to be a little bit of ammonia, but it's not anywhere else in the tank. You just
why do you shit on every piece of logic that I have that makes?
Because it's not.
Because your ideas are all mental.
If you're having
the reason
issues,
why I said it was
if
meth
you're
fueled,
having
it's
issues-
insane.
if you're having issues with your catfish at the bottom of your tank, why are you going to be testing up the top? It's very logical that there could be dead spots in your aquarium because
Stuff
the rock
could layer
would
if you had a
change
stagnant rock pool, but you don't. So all
I'm
good.
going to say,
How many aquariums have you been into and there has been stagnant bits of things
I
building
don't
up
jump
in
into
the corner?
aquariums usually.
Have you been to, not been in, you knob?
You said been into.
So I'm gonna replay this when we finish this, and I said been.
Anyway, I think generally your tank's going to be all the same, so you just measure it. I'd probably say midstream. You know, like a good.
I'm going to say,
good test.
I'm going to say the bodies of water we're dealing with aren't big enough for this to be a problem. Even like monster fish tanks and stuff, the body of water is not going to be big enough.
I disagree.
Just have a bit of flow going on, and stuff will be fine. Just test whatever. Again, it's a ballpark, but it'll give you a better idea of what's going on.
I disagree. Depending,
I was trying to be delicate about this, but I think this argument is mental.
if you're having issues with catfish, why are you going to be testing the water from up the top?
You're not testing the water from up the top. You're testing the water. The water is one unit. It'll be the same.
No, you're wrong.
You could. Oh my god. Okay, I'm not gonna. I'm making a conscious effort to breathe here. I'm not getting fired up again.
It doesn't mix, and it's building up of things in this.
It does mix in an aquarium. It's gonna mix.
But if you've got dead spot and it's not mixing, how can?
Do you have a filter? Do you have a filter?
Are you listening?
There will be enough water moving around.
Dead. Spot.
I guarantee it.
Dead spots. Are you not listening to what I'm saying?
There's no dead spot. Even a dead spot isn't completely dead. There's just like, it just doesn't make any sense.
If you've got
if the water's not mixing, then how did the ammonia get there?
If you've got a corner that is building up with,
if the water is shut up. If the water's not at all mixing and they're two separate bits, how does the ammonia get there in the first place?
Because everything's breaking down. That's how ammonia works.
But if the water's not mixing, there's nothing there.
When you're eating food and your poop and stuff is breaking down, then you're getting a patch of ammonia.
Yeah, so that would mean there's a fish there, yes?
This is my point. If your bristlenose is swimming, using bristlenose example, down the bottom, and they're swimming through this on a regular basis, of course it's going to cause issues for them.
Well, as they're swimming around, obviously they're moving their fins and the water's moving. So, problem solved.
You're wrong.
This doesn't make any sense. It doesn't just magically happen. Even as the fish is swimming around, it's moving the water around. Maybe it's not moving the water around fast, but it's moving it around.
It makes absolute logic.
Yeah, it might make logic, but it's still wrong. This doesn't make any sense.
Sense and logic are the same thing.
No.
All right, I think we can move on from this topic.
Because it doesn't make any sense, and it's a stupid argument to have it.
I don't even know what to say about it, but closing point is confused as fuck, and I think this is stupid. But anyway, if you've got a tank with a bit of flow, it's all going to be dissolved. If you've got a stagnant rock pool, yeah, you might have some layers of problems. So, yeah. Any other comments that are not crazy about water testing?
Oh man, hold on, come back to me. Just give me a sec.
Cam, it's okay for other people to have opinions that are correct and not agreeing with you. Not everything.
We've moved on from the subject, and we're talking about.
Hey, just breathe.
I can have the opinion that bloody your dad is a unicorn. It doesn't mean it's right.
Okay. Anyway,
it's no such thing as unicorn. What a stupid thing to say.
Are we finished with water testing now? Because
we better be.
Because this is dumb, and I'm done with it.
Yeah. All right.
Done with after 3 minutes.
I think
Ryan.
I think we need to just have a quick summary, because I've actually got no idea what we actually talked about, and I don't feel like we actually agreed on anything.
Honestly, fucking neither.
For me, I'm gonna say
watch language.
If you're if you just got one tank and you don't want to get too deep into it, then find a good local store or a good local hobbyist and work alongside them to keep your tank safe, and then take them some samples occasionally, get it all under control and figure out what works for you. If you're getting a little bit keener, like you've got a few tanks and you want to start breeding some stuff and you want to start understanding a bit more, then you can go and buy a few more of these test kits and learn a bit more about the nitrates and the ammonia and stuff, and you have a little bit more control about knowing what's going on. There seems to be a little bit of discussion about whether the test strips work, so it'll be interesting to do some testing on them sometime. If someone's got a tank with ammonia on it, maybe chuck one of these dipsticks in and see if it picks it up at all.
It'd be nice to know. Don't do ammonia.
Okay,
they don't even test for ammonia.
They're no good anyway, so then it doesn't matter. We just throw them out. Test strips, dumb, burn them, whatever.
They're not dumb. They are good for just a very quick look at what you need to look at. They're great for people that don't want to spend 15 minutes.
But the problem with them is then you've got to reach your arm all the way down to the bottom to get to the bloody corner in the bag.
We're doing a summary right now, and we're not talking about layering of stagnant rock pools.
Cam's fucking mental ideas.
Now, Cam and Brett, do you have a quick summary that's not talking about stagnant layers and rotten rock pools?
Oh, please, let's not ask him his opinion.
Yeah, I do. I just want to close with, this has been Bussin', Cam is Cap, and damn Daniel up the waz.
Okay. I'm just going to ignore that. My thing is just get a liquid test kit, API 1, and just test your water. I know a lot of people don't, but you should. It's essential to have an idea of what's going on. So do your water test kits. Don't worry about where you get the water from. Just get it from the top, and it'll all be fine. So, yeah, that's what I have to say. Thank you very much for listening. Everyone write us emails about how wrong Cam is, and I'll see you later.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, guys. And another exciting episode. I'm halfway through eating my eggs on toast, so this is great. I've really enjoyed this one. I think maybe we need to do another episode on tank layering and water
layering episode.
Yeah, because it's obviously a big issue in the aquariums. Just like air stones placed by heaters is a very substantial issue.
Oh, bro, honestly.
I was right.
It needs to be considered. And it's like vitally important.
So what happens if I'm doing the prawn method? Won't all the prawn just make a bubble and then nothing will cycle?
On a proper serious note, if you do want to...
We're signing off.
No, proper serious note. No, proper serious note. If you actually want an accurate reading, you can generally get them from your local councils. If they're not on their websites, you can normally email them and ask for an accurate reading of the water that comes out of the tap, and it comes in with all the information like GHs, KHs, PHs, and all that kind of stuff, so you can have a far more scientific readout than what you do from...
Will they tell you what the nitrates are in it? Or will they lie about that and not measure it?
I believe they do. They have that in there. From at least the Tasman one I did a couple of years ago did. So, yeah. That's how I found out that I had such ridiculously high nitrates coming out of the water.
Nitrates and tank water. Nitrates and water supply really bugs me and makes no sense to me. But again, that's a whole new topic for another day.
Yeah. So you can get accurate information from your local council regarding the water just by asking them if it's not on their website.
If you took water out of your fish tank and told the council it was out of your tap and took it in there and said, "Hey, my water tastes funny," would they test it for you? And
I
give you a
don't
full
think-
breakdown of your aquarium.
I don't think they test it in the council office. I think it's at the water stations that they test them.
I don't know. I just thought that might be a good life hack for us.
And
If
I
they
think
obviously,
that's
if they get 2,000 people showing up at the gate, I mean, 2,000 people listening to us, 2,000 people keeping tanks in each area, probably unlikely. But hey, they get like 10 people show up. Hey, well, water tastes funny, man.
Wouldn't it be hilarious if they used the JBL Pro scan to get their readings for their water?
Or dipstick, or dip tests. But they have to put it at the bottom of where the water comes out of the tap.
Oh,
Anyway, signing off now. Thanks for
All right,
listening.
see ya.
Bye.
up the was.